fabulous speaker, Priyanka Brahmbhatt, Executive Director at Panamax Inc. Welcome, Priyanka. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Cheryl. How are you doing? Thanks for introducing me.
Take it away. I can't wait for your session today.
Yes. So, like Cheryl suggested, indeed, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a topic that is well rounded. Twitter is trending with it, Instagram is trending with it, and so many seminars. And before we head on to the agenda page of what we are going to cover today, I wanted to start with an introduction on why diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important, especially in technology workplaces. Companies ultimately innovate, develop, and idealize or create products and services for a diverse group of people, consumers of various age groups, gender selection, race, culture, religion, and wider pool of demographics are the customer of your product or services. Then how can a company and its board of employees come from a limited perspective or limited pool, making decisions for the ones they hardly have any primary connection to? And hence, the more diverse companies' human resources and decision makers are, the more innovative products and solutions are created. So, in the next slide of the agenda, I would like to present the 6 topics that we are going to cover today. It's going to be the key challenges when creating diverse workplaces and how we can overcome that, and how diverse organizations streamlining processes to address these challenges can boost our productivity in time. Uh, Corporate strategies and structures towards better integration, retaining diversity in technology industry and creating allies so that we can work stronger together, and introducing policies and practices proven to make positive changes. In the next slide, the concerns up and close that we should really be addressing to cover all the 6 elements that I just addressed would be knowing that in 2020, the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Report shows a widening gender gap in education, health, economic opportunity, political empowerment, a gap the report predicts that will take more than 99.5 years to bridge. That's a long, long time. That's a lot of generations passing by. And 26% of computing related jobs are held by women, only 26%. Further narrowing down, just 3% of computing related jobs are held by African American women, 6% held by Asian women, and 2% held by Hispanic women. 50% of women said they have experienced gender discrimination at work, and 43% of Americans believe women create a safer, more respectful work environment than men. And only 5% of Americans believe men create a safer workspace. While this is talking about diversity, and this has no agenda of attacking any other gender or race or culture, but these are just simply the facts being laid there. Women are 22% more likely to experience imposter syndrome in the workplace, where they face an overwhelming feeling of being out of place compared to colleagues of other gender class. The reason being, sometimes like the New Zealand's president or the prime minister, well, she quoted once that you can be kind and be bold at the same time, but we are still trying to embed that in our culture, that just so that we don't have a strong personality to showcase the bossy way, that does not mean we don't know what we do. And the female participation in telecommunication workforce varies widely by company, ranging from 10% to 50%. And in 3/4 of telecommunication companies surveyed, women accounted for less than 40% of the workforce. And only 6 of the 100 most powerful people in the industry on 2014 Global Telecom Business Power 100 list were women. 3 out of 4 tech and healthcare startups have an all-male board. And guess what? There are lots of women in the customer pool that you have to address to. And hence, it's more important than ever to really address these key challenges. And just for that, in the next slide, I would be addressing the key challenges in this case study that companies, organizations, and team faces while we try to integrate the equity and diversity and inclusion especially in the tech world. Limited female presentation in management role, as I said in the previous slide, inequality, gender discrimination, and inability to talk about the issue openly and report in supervisor. That's one of the big gaps that we do have. Lack of support during maternity leave and handling cultural biases, because on social grounds, it's forgotten that there is both mother and father having a kid, not just the mother. So now that the countries and organizations are getting to more mature paternity leave, but as of now, maternity leave is considered as a threat to the hiring authorities, and we have the way we can bring a way around is by creating modules of work from home, which COVID has taught us better than ever. One of the key challenges, the retention gap that we need to fill, is all genders start easy, but women and other sexual orientation gender has a stagnant longer on lower levels, like LGBTQ community too. Hence, reach the senior positions late or never at all. According to National Science Foundation, only 38% of women in LGBTQ community who majored in computer science are working in the field compared to 53% of men. Workplace culture gap is one of the very important propaganda. Psychological safety and comfortable, welcoming environment in workplace contribute to diversity in workplace. Places where they can share their ideas freely while placed at an equal pedestal, regardless of their race, gender orientation, and social orientation. Founder gap. According to Silicon Valley Bank, the founder's gender has a direct impact on gender diversity in a startup. 1 in 4 startups have a female founder, while 37% have at least one woman on the board of directors, and 53% have at least one woman as an executive position. That's why there's a whole diversity included in the gender orientation, but at the same time, we need to have the inclusion of the board members from various races and various LGBTQ orientations and religion and so forth, because like we went through in the previous slides about how we are actually making up products and services for a wide customer pool, just not one or two. Gender pay gap and even the racial pay gap is a big norm right now. Women are underpaid, and many of the races from different diversity is underpaid in several industries, including technology. In computing fields, on average, women or the people who are who are more of colored earns 87% of what men or people who are not colored earns. Worse for Black women in STEM, who earns around 87% of white women's salary and just 62% of what men earn. IT leadership gap. According to research by IDC, the percentage of women in senior leadership positions grew from 21% to 24% between 2018 and 2019. We're going somewhere there. We just need to buckle up more. And organizations with 50% or more women in senior leadership positions are more likely to offer equal pay, have higher retention rates, and higher job satisfaction levels across the board, regardless of race, gender, social orientation. And next slide, we would be covering the challenges to achieving this diversity. What is an easy way to decide what is right for a large group of people? Go by the majority, right? Wrong. Just because there are numbers doesn't mean the opinion stands true. There is a diverse way to looking at the issue at hand. And when we are looking to invite people to create a productive workplace, it becomes important to be inclusive. Despite various trends towards a more diverse workplace, more barriers still limit progress. A prominent issue that arises in workplaces is accepting and respecting social or cultural differences. Part of this may stem from a lack of understanding or respect. Examples of this can include refusal by an employer or manager to allow an employee to observe their faith by taking time off on any faith-related holidays, or discrimination against the LGBTQ community employee because the manager or another employee disagrees with their lifestyle or choices, or disagreement with people or different cultures and ethnic diversities. While diversity affects organizational norms by creating the need for flexibility and evolution towards a broader culture, resistance forces the minorities to bear the burden of changing to fit the existing culture, thereby limiting the initial value of having new perspective in the first place. Diverse people come from diverse backgrounds, and that brings in the beauty of culture bouquet. But what if the individuals aren't respecting of the other cultures and impose their own? This not only creates communication blockages, but also affects productivity of the team. There is known as workplace depression. And do not ignore those nuances. For instance, female employees tend to talk more politely and use more tag questions. Younger employees may use different terminology and slang, which older generations are unfamiliar with. Another challenge when creating diversity is stereotyping, what significantly narrows the world's view of the individuals within the organization. This attitude reduces all of the potential benefits of diversity in employees group thing. Now you might think that I am using loads of words like diversity and inclusion and gender and discrimination and so forth, but that is what we're talking about. The like facing the challenges of the same inclusion, the equity in the workplace, and that starts from human resource models to management ethos, and the foundation realizing from the management and investors to the ground team that the companies ultimately have to serve the world, whether it's a product, it's a tangible product, it's a software product, it's a service like consultation or whatever. If you can't respect the inclusivity inside the board, you won't be able to respect your clients, you won't be able to understand what they need. And today we have different UI and UXs for different communities, because even a simple thing like colors and the placement of the buttons changes with different cultures, and we need to understand that. And on the next slide, I would be presenting more on the goals and priorities we should focus on when we talk about inclusivity. Inclusivity is critical in tech as it enables companies to create better and safer products and services that take everyone into consideration, not just one section of society. Moreover, a 2020 report from McKinsey found that diverse companies perform better, hire better talent, have more engaged employees, and retain workers better than companies that do not focus on inclusivity and equity. Despite this, women remain widely underrepresented in IT roles, and I can vouch for that. It's a matter of concern, because when you are ignoring one entire part of the world's dominance, you are actually ignoring that part of the customer journey too. And and before that, before I head into the next slide, I wanted to send out a poll based on what we just talked about. Uh, which of these do you think supports an equity first workplace the most? Policies, supportive colleagues, management, uh, employee inclusion activities. And the poll has gone out live, and as we go further on with the presentation, I believe it would be exciting to see what the entire fraternity really believes in. Now, as we go on the next slide, why create an inclusive workplace? You might think I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm going to go in depth with it, as the case study suggests. Inclusive workplace are an integral part of developing work culture. There have been several studies that go on to prove this point. According to Deloitte, diverse companies enjoy 2.3 times higher cash flow per employee. That is something that every company is looking for. Every management is looking for higher cash flow. Gardner found that inclusive teams improve team performance by up to 30% in high diversity environment. The BCG study highlights that companies with diverse management teams had a 19% increase in revenue compared to their less diverse counterparts. Although diversity and inclusion offers clear benefits, it's difficult to implement. A major issue is that many companies believe they are already promoting a diverse and inclusive culture. On the contrary, only 40% of employees agree that the manager foster an inclusive environment. Without a concerted effort towards both inclusion and diversity, your workforce will feel out of place and unsupported. Hiring without an organized recruitment process, like we discussed before, only creates a vicious circle of similar people who have nothing new to offer. An inclusive work environment can only be created when the recruitment includes a panel of diverse individuals with varied criteria of selection. Diversity and inclusion at workplaces brings new perspectives, leading to better problem solving and more creative set of ideas due to different backgrounds. On the last note, according to Glassdoor survey, 72% of women, 89% of Black respondents, 80% of Asians, 70% of Latinos said workforce diversity was important to them. A significant majority of non-colored respondents also said workforce diversity is important. Hiring more diverse individuals is crucial in attracting more interested, more qualified applicants. Studies have shown that diverse teams tend to achieve more, leading to increased profits. Again, that is something every company is looking for, aren't we? Now, as we go on the next slide, diversity is the key driver. I know lots and lots of diversity, inclusion, equity, but again, that's what the case study is about. Now, why are diverse workplaces the need of the hour? To understand this, we must understand what are the key differentiators for the world's largest organizations. It is innovation. These global organizations increasingly see having a diverse and inclusive workforce as critical to driving the creation and execution of new products, services, and business processes. For executives in charge of diversity and inclusion, this is a paramount when building the business case for their efforts. For global companies, diversity is no longer simply a matter of creating a heterogeneous workforce, but using that workforce to innovate and give it a competitive advantage in the world marketplace. And as companies compete on global scale, diversity and inclusion frequently have to shift as different markets and different cultures have varied definitions of what diversity means. We'll go on the next slide on strategizing diverse inclusion. That is, initiatives perceived to add value for both men and women, such as flexible working arrangements, LGBTQ normalization, awareness and outreach programs to equip young girls and women with skills and inspirations needed to pursue a career in STEM. It all starts from the beginning of the schooling. Let's encourage girls and women and various other communities to really go and pursue STEM, because right now they still think, what's the point? We are not going to get a job. And tailored job descriptions, gender balanced applicant targets, and balanced recruitment panels. Returnships, return to work internships, and phase back programs to recapture and retain talent, particularly at the management level, is very, very important. As we go on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the stakes that are high on the allies. Like we talked in the beginning, our allies are very, very important. Do we have enough people from the so-called societal majority who are ready to take up the role of allies to promote diverse workplaces? People who could learn in as genuine advocates and complices and full conspirators in removing obstacles to gender and community equity. We need more people who can be allies and supportive in these initiatives. But the question is how to be one. Be vigilant and observe young people who are interested in tech. Get them more involved in STEM. Invite them to job shadow you or suggest a local STEM oriented programs or day camps. Consider volunteering. Companies should be doing this more because you want to hire a talent which is going to develop your product for tomorrow. As a leader, you can make the real difference in inclusivity by acknowledging contributions and ideas by people. Give genuine feedback and appreciate openly. Nominate more people from diverse backgrounds for any internal company awards. Share the tasks you expedite in leadership role with observing the candidate. And there's a list of things, but yes, you heard it. Talking is the key to understanding. Talk to people from all communities, genders, orientations, or countries. Widen your horizons of understanding and see how the world looks from their point of view. Let's widen our vision and to achieve more growth. And as we go on the next slide, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on what can the leadership do in the long term. That is long-term and frequently updated vision, like we discussed in the previous slide. Be visible, be vocal, and approachable leadership. Let's let down our ego and let's be ready to listen if we are wrong. If something in the organization is wrong, it's okay. If someone tells that we are wrong, let's listen. Setting aspirational annual targets. Target that everyone can achieve and everyone wants to achieve and supporting it to the core, adhering to the local and legal regulations. Right now, many of the countries, cities, and states across the globe are really trying to promote inclusivity. Let's actually abide by them. A robust internal compliant community. ICC is so important. An active ICC where we listen, where we act, and where we mandate. Be vocal on the diverse advocacy, both within and outside the organization. And just to add to the bit, for that, I'm really proud of Panamax for doing that every single year and every single opportunity like this. So thanks, Women in IT, for giving this opportunity here too. As we go on the next slide, the best practices to achieve diversity, equity, and inclusion would be well-defined success plan, creating succession plans tied to individual development goals, nurturing young talent, closing the gap gradually when they climb up the seniority ladder, really walking through it. Training and mentoring, so important. Mentoring should be a mandate for everyone in management. Partnership with professional training institutes to create focused training programs. Get inspired, not just within the technology paradigm, but hire talent from other industries and promote them under structured programs and get rid of unconscious bias. It exists. Be conscious about it. Organize training and workshops and include employees of all genders to foster inclusivity workplace. And that's all for now. I really lumbered through because I had less time, more to cover, but thank you so much, Cheryl, for giving me this window. And just as I end, I wanted to announce the poll. The poll says that they think management, 71% think that management has more to do with the equity first workplace. And then it comes supportive colleagues, of course. And there is an equal distribution between policies and employee inclusion and activities.